Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. This is Mary Esther Gilbert, nutritional physiologist, founder of the True Health Mastery Institute of Holistic Personal Health Management, where we educate and cut through all of the propaganda and misinformation that is out there that's so prevalent that's confusing everyone out there. So we get right to the most legitimate scientific research, and we share. I have over 45 years of experience, and so I've seen what the results are. When you match the results with the science, then you know you have something, right? So tonight we're going to be covering the very important need for our children and teens of being just properly nourished. We don't want them to eat so much of the junk and have them ingest the chemicals that disrupt their growing, developing bodies and minds. And so we're going to be covering a lot tonight. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see what I will be talking about. Anyone new to the channel, welcome to my channel. Please feel free to like and subscribe. And if you like what you hear tonight, to just share, because people are desperate out there. They need this information. This applies to adults as well, what I'm going to be covering tonight. So what we're doing is we're going to be talking about just what the research has shown that supplements, the right nutritional supplements, what their positive effects are on our teens and our children. So it would affect the learning and the behavior, any hyperactivity, mental health, emotional health, psychological health, brain growth and development. That is the single most important thing you want to focus on when you're nourishing your child properly. And it also affects their intelligence. So everyone has the potential to be so much more quick of mind and perceptions, cognition, interaction, confidence, things like that. So a highly nourished person is going to view the world in a much higher, much more positive perspective. So again, if I'll show you what the science has shown, how it affects the behavior of our children. So I'm just going to read this. Sometimes I go off the script, so to speak, but it's important that everyone knows the kind of research that I do. So I'm just going to share with you what I have found in the research. I'm scrolling down a little bit because we are obscuring some of the document here. I'm just going to try to shrink us down a little bit. That's a little bit better, but then I can't see everybody. I like to see everybody. All right, we'll just have to deal with that. Okay, so the first section, nutrient deficiencies and antisocial behavior. Nutrient deficiencies have long been associated with antisocial behavior in school children. We'll talk about school children first. Studies have tested the effects of vitamin, mineral, and macronutrients, such as the omega fatty acids in plants, and also the kinds of proteins and not most importantly, but one of the main things is feeding our kids the right whole food carbohydrates. None of the refined stuff. That stuff is very, very toxic, and it's at the fundamental problem of what is wrong with the behavior in our children. In one thorough study, now I'm going to be naming off all these different studies. In one thorough study, a 12-week double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial on adolescents aged 13 to 16, the effects of a daily intake of vitamins and minerals and the omega-3 fats on their behavior were evaluated. Research utilized multiple kinds of tests measuring nutrient levels in their bodies, and also evaluations and assessments on student behavior before supplements or placebos were given, and also at the end of the trial period. Now, researchers found that positive behavioral changes were associated with those given the actual supplements, and that disciplinary measures increased in those who had received the placebo. So in other words, we had a group of children who were discipline problems, and when they gave them the supplements, they calmed down, they were more reasonable, they were more interactive, they were more social, appropriately social. But those who had not been given the supplements continued on being discipline problems. Researchers concluded that supplementary nutrition have a protective effect against worsening behavior. Child malnutrition, such as the micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, and the omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids in the diet have been linked to behavioral problems, including inattention, aggression, and impaired socialization. So introverted children, children who tend to be by themselves, children who feel intimidated by others, all these poor children. I just feel my heart goes out to them when they're feeling this way. When I have found that when you give a child these kinds of nutrients, suddenly they come alive. Suddenly they are out there, interacting and laughing, making friends, things like that. It's like magic, but this is exactly what we do here. We find out what makes the body run down at the microcell level and how it affects these cells that compose the trillions, the trillions of cells that compose the entire human body, including the biochemistry, our hormones, how moods are affected as well. Okay, so now childhood did I read that already? Yes. It is important to note that many botanicals have a higher omega-6 fatty acid content than omega-3s. Now, this ratio is so important. You have to focus on foods that are higher in omega-3s. If you have too many omega-6s, then there's going to be some health issues. So it goes on to say foods with this ratio of fatty acids or consuming foods with more omega-6s may ultimately impair nerve transmissions between the brain and all of the billions and trillions of nerve networks in the body. So now these are two omega-3 fatty acids that are found in many foods. There's many different kinds, but the most prevalent are the eicosapentaenoic acid, or EPA, and docosahexaenoic acid, or DHA. If you buy supplements out there, then you'll notice you want to look for these kinds of fatty acids in the supplements. So these are essential that play vital roles in and comprise the structure of nerve cells. So the nerve cells will tend to decompose if these fatty acids aren't present in the system. The nerve cells will misfire, they'll misdirect, and they'll just crumble and die off. So the immune system has to come in and clean up the mess, So you don't want to do that to your child's nerves. They are growing and developing. They're developing more nerve networks in their brain and in their bodies. So you want to continue to nourish that process. So it's critical to emphasize foods with higher omega-3 ratio over omega-6. Okay, so now there's so much information on my YouTube channel, and if you just dive into all of those videos, especially the ones that I have been putting out on fats and on proteins, on carbohydrates, and tonight we'll be covering the vitamins and minerals. So there's this whole education available to everyone out there. If you look at these videos and write down, take your notes, and apply them to your lives, you'll be surprised how many health issues can be corrected. All right. It may not happen overnight. Cell turnover rate in the body varies according to which system. So eventually things start getting better and better. Okay, so where am I? Early brain development can therefore benefit from foods higher in omega-3s. A multi-nutrient approach has been found to have more extensive benefits for growth and development in children and teens than taking isolated nutrients. And I've always been a proponent of whole food supplements. So any multivitamin or mineral, you don't want synthetic vitamins in there. You don't want elemental minerals in there. You want plant-derived, because that changes the atomic structure, the electron structure that allows the body to be, the cells to absorb these nutrients. So we need those electrical components in our whole foods in order to allow the cells to utilize them and to continue to do their work to grow and develop. Okay, so that's very, very important. Never buy an isolated nutrient. If you hear one particular vitamin that sounds good and you feel like you need it, do not do it. It's not going to do the work you need, because it needs the whole complex of the whole array of all of the known essential nutrients that are usually in nutrient-rich foods grown in a very nutrient-rich environment, organic, permaculture, wildcrafting, whatever. Okay, so a multi-nutrient product has been shown to improve antisocial behavior and a range, now get this, everyone, a range of psychiatric symptoms. Vitamins and coenzymes and minerals are cofactors, and they're critical for facilitating this vast number of enzyme-initiated metabolic actions in the body. In other words, raw enzyme-active foods are going to aid in the absorption of these vitamins. these molecular compounds. The body knows exactly how to build the right molecule. And if any kind of nutrient that's missing, it's this system, that particular task it's doing at any given moment will come to a grinding halt. So if your child is growing and developing and building their character and their self-esteem and their confidence and their energy levels for being happy and also for exercising, right? Being out in the sunshine and interacting, all these wonderful things that happen when a healthy child is growing and developing. So in other words, okay, so vitamins and coenzymes and minerals are cofactors. They work together and they're critical for facilitating the vast number of enzyme-initiated metabolic actions in the body. Just to repeat, in response to study outcomes, it has been concluded that appropriate nutrient intervention can lead to cognitive health and behavioral improvements. Multi-nutrient interventions have been shown to significantly lower disciplinary misbehaviors in school children and also in young prisoners. Think about that. Can you imagine what a horrifying atmosphere that must be for young prisoners? And once they're nourished, they settle down. They start talking. They start, emoting, and they get the help that they need, which is more effective for them. So they're not coming from a place of fear and a very limited perspective. Trials on children with neurodevelopmental disorders like ADHD and studies focused on poor diets associated with antisocial behavior have reported behavioral improvements after administering supplementation. Studies that implemented isolated nutrients such as DHA alone found no improvement in children with ADHD. So you see, they need the broad spectrum of all known essential nutrients. In studies that provided broad spectrum vitamins and minerals to adult test subjects, improved symptoms of ADHD. Generally, research reports indicate that providing isolated nutrients seem to have little or no improvements for ADHD compared to multi-nutrient supplementation, which led to improvements in attention, aggression, and hyperactivity. Multi-nutrient supplementation in young adults led to improvements in behaviors such as agreeability and composure. So when you're highly nourished, you don't react to stress in a negative manner. Therefore, researchers conclude that a sufficiently potent multi-nutrient approach that include polyunsaturated fatty acids, those are the omega-3s, are beneficial for improving neurobehavioral conditions in schools and in correctional facilities. So these poorly nourished children or youth, their neurons are damaged. Their nerve transmission communications are misfiring all over the place. And you cannot conduct a system, the body system, in an orderly manner and keep it calm out of chaos if your nerves are being damaged. One study found that teenagers from disadvantaged backgrounds in the UK had very low blood levels of the omega-3s, the DHA and EPA, and other vitamins and minerals. Teens experience rapid growth, including neurodevelopment, and therefore require consistent and potent amounts of omega-3 fats. After supplementation, there was observed a reduction in disruptive behavior, disciplinary offenses, and antisocial behavior. I mean, do you love it so far, everyone? I just think this is fantastic. Mental functions of children and adolescents. Recent, rigorously designed studies on the effects supplements have on children and adolescents have further confirmed that nutrients have potent effects on brain function, impacting a child's learning capacity as well as behavior. Nutrients are known to prevent learning impairments and reduce behavioral transgressions. So these are the nutrients that scientists from all over the world for many years now have arrived at these conclusions. Now, this is by far not a complete diet, obviously, but they found that when a growing body was given enough of the animal-derived proteins, then the body was able to break them down to those amino acid basic components to rebuild these tissues and aid in the growth and developmental processes, including the nerve cell fibers. Everything in our body is made out of protein. We have a lot of nutrients, circulating around. We have a lot of water in the body. We have the carbohydrates and the proteins and the fats circulating and being digested and being broken down and rebuilding new cells. all the time in our body. But the protein is the most fundamental thing that everyone, include especially children and especially teenagers, they're growing even faster than children. They have these growth spurts like you would not believe, so they need these animal-derived proteins. So that is the first thing. They've also found that if a person does not eat enough animal-derived proteins, then they're going to be iron deficient. And iron is one of the major macro minerals that are needed in the body. Now, it has to be in plant food form, and also in animal tissue form. So those are the two types of iron that you want in your body. Do not go out and buy iron supplements. You'll have a toxic liver before too long. And so you do not want to do that. All right. Notice I say food derived. Iodine, same thing, plant derived iodine or from seafood. Eating a balanced breakfast, that it would be including a protein, the right types of fats. Animal fats are extremely important too, but these particular researchers, they didn't mention that, but there's so much more to know about animal fats. And I do have a video on this very channel, everyone, that you can watch to determine what types of fats your body needs and your children absolutely need in their growing, developing bodies and minds. Okay, so fatty acids, making sure they get those omega-3s or polyunsaturated fatty acids. That's the older term for it. And now they've abbreviated that to the PUFAs. And then also the highly unsaturated fatty acids, which is even more. I mean, some of these plant foods have even more they have more of the omega-3s. So those are important too. Vitamin and mineral supplementation. So we have to eat a diet that's very vitamin and mineral rich, whole foods, healthy animals, things like that, a very, very balanced diet, but also mineral supplementation in case, people get busy and teenagers and children, you can't always get them to eat right all the time. But I used to buy my kids a wonderful chewable vitamin and mineral supplement. And they loved it because it tasted like pineapple juice, it was very good. But as they grew older, it was hard to get them to take their tablets, right? But I was always after them. Here, don't forget to take it, But they're happy now. Now that they're in their 30s, they're still taking their supplements, and they know that it makes such a huge difference. So children from all socioeconomic levels are malnourished, whether it's from going hungry because families can't afford sufficient food, or enough food is consumed but is seriously devoid of nutrients. So the junk food industry has made billions and trillions of dollars off of your children. They have gotten them so used to the terrible fats that are in them, the altered fats and the sugars, and a lot of the salt, right? The sodium. Sodium has its place in a healthy diet. It's one of the very, very essential minerals, but it has to be balanced out with the other essential minerals. So these foods are they're very, they get addicted to these kinds of foods, and then they don't have a palate for a healthier food. Some of our plant foods are kind of bitter, right? But that's what makes them so medicinal and so cleansing and detoxifying and so health building, aiding the immune system and aiding the growth and energy production process. They're so very important. All right, so yeah, we have to try to keep them away from the junk food. Just don't keep it in the house. That makes so much difference. And maybe once in a while, allow them. There's a little bit healthier versions of these junk foods out there, in the organic industry, but they're still not perfect, right? But at least they're a lot better than a lot of these. And a lot of these have synthetic, token supplements added in there, like a synthetic B vitamin here and there. That's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it for anyone. Schools make nutritionally deficient or imbalanced snack foods, do not provide adequate nutritional education, and do not keep up with the rapidly expanding nutrition research that supersedes erroneous, outdated nutritional guidelines. That has been something that, my age, I have seen over the decades of how school lunch programs have just been reduced from hot lunches, just kitchens in the background and serving hot food on trays, vegetables, and all the balanced meals. They've gone just to packaged processed foods and handing them little closed up, chips and who knows what else now. My kids have been out of the grammar schools for many, many years. But if you all have grandchildren out there, you might want to find out just exactly what they're eating. Some children, when my kids were in grammar school, their friends would complain of stomach aches. I would send my kids to school with healthy snacks. They were still allowed to have the lunches because they wanted to be with their friends and all that. but it was a compromise, right? You can't keep an eye on your kids all day long if they're in school, especially. Although I was one of the volunteer parents that was always around just to keep an eye on the teachers, right? But anyhow, you don't have to be that serious of a paranoid parent like I was, but I was glad I did. I found out how the school system worked, especially when they were in middle school and high school. So yeah, we have to keep an eye on our children. They're still growing and developing. They might want independence. They might, be defiant and this and that. But really, when they have parents that care and they know parents care and they know why they have the rules, then it's a little bit better, right? They do need this kind of structure. So being highly nourished makes them more reasonable and more open to what parents have to say, right? So that's another plus. Okay, so researchers have also found that HUFA deficiencies contribute to the learning and behavior problems associated with ADHD. Now, I'm just presenting to you what different researchers have found, and they all came to the same conclusions. Those children with normal to high concentrations of HUFAs and regular vitamin and mineral supplements reported low frequency of physical problems and better moods and behavior. There were less temper tantrums, sleep problems, learning problems, and health problems. So when you're nutrient deficient, then your body's going to be breaking down in all the different body systems. Another study on young adult prisoners in the UK who were provided with vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids, there they are nourishing their nerve cells in their brains, reduced disciplinary incidents considerably. Inmates committed fewer offenses than a control group of prisoners receiving an inactive placebo. Other studies conducted in juvenile correctional institutions reported a major decline in violence and serious antisocial behavior after providing nutrient-rich diets. So it's not just the supplements, you also have to have a nutrient-rich, well-balanced diet. A study conducted on a whole school population in Phoenix, Arizona, USA, asserted the importance of micronutrients, vitamins and minerals in the diet, and it would affect intelligence scores. Yet another plus, right? A significant increase of an average of 2.5 IQ points occurred in children who received an active tablet compared to those given an inactive placebo. Some children gained 15 or more IQ points and raised their nonverbal intelligence scores. The study confirmed the remarkable results that vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids have a powerful impact on learning and behavior. It was concluded that switching from a typical Western diet to a more nutrient-dense, balanced whole food diet can yield even more impressive results that includes plenty and a wide variety of, and here we are, vegetables, fruits, and berries. Now, I notice how I don't just say fruits. Berries are an extremely important addition to the fruits that people need to eat. So they have a variety of plant compounds in them that have been shown to be so beneficial in so many ways in the healthy body. Now, Alaskan or Arctic caught fish, if you're in the northern part and you are not exposed to any kind of water that has been polluted, most water on this planet has been. So that's why tell people go north, and have the water tested in your communities and make sure you're not taking in pollutants that actually disrupt the nervous system, destroy the nervous system in most cases, and also disrupt the hormonal system. So these growing, developing children, they need to have balanced hormones. Their hormones are going crazy, right? They're growing so fast, their bodies can barely keep up to keeping the body in a homeostasis or biochemically balanced state. So the better nourished a child is, the better they're going to behave and think and act. Okay, so raw nuts and seeds. Do not buy roasted, salted, sugared nuts. Keep them refrigerated. Buy the raw and organic if you can, because they're so sprayed with pesticides, and those are also known to disrupt the nervous system and the hormonal system. All right, so whole grains, 100% whole grains, whole oats, cereals that say 100% whole grains and ones that don't have white sugar in them. So we need those kinds of fibers, right, to help clean out the system. So we don't want any stuffed up children, because that makes them very grumpy and very achy and very sick, really. There's so many things that can go wrong when the gut is not healthy. Leaner meats, when a child is at the toddler age, preschool age, and early, childhood age, they definitely need more fats in their diet. So do not put your young child on a diet. Okay, have them exercise if they're gaining weight, but the leaner meats are very important for older children. I didn't say zero meat, zero fat in your meats. An 80-20, 20% fats is probably a good balance, to keep your lean and your older child in a much better shape. But they're also getting the important fatty acids found in animal-derived foods. So you're getting the omega-3s from the raw nuts and seeds and whole grains, and you're getting the cholesterol that's actually needed by growing children. Cholesterol is the structure of every one of our trillions of cells. The body makes cholesterol. Now, it's not the stuff that clogs your arteries. That's the fried heated oils, the fried foods that form the plaques. And stress also forms plaques. But the humans have been eating animal fats for thousands of years. Okay, so that's not something that you need to necessarily be afraid of. If everything else is bad in the diet and someone develops these plaques, then yeah, you have to watch the fats. But the leaner meats are for the older children, maybe the older teens that are approaching, like 18, 19, the ones that are slowing down and they're growing, that kind of thing. So the leaner meats are always a good thing. Beans and legumes are an excellent source of carbohydrates and the best kind of fiber. So yeah, there's a whole nother video on this channel on carbohydrates where I cover these things more in detail. Herbs and spices spice up your life. The different culinary herbs and spices will define and determine what ethnicity type of food you like. If you like Italian food, Asian food, Mexican food, whatever, the herbs and spices are the ones that determine what taste that's going to be. But they're also very medicinal. They're antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, very detoxing. They're a wonderful food group. Butter, I threw that in there because this is the best kind of animal-derived fat a person can eat. I always advocate organic because you don't want cows that have been fed pesticide-ridden feeds and given growth hormones that can truly disrupt how your child is growing as well. Or antibiotics, heaven knows what those can do. I've defined that in all these videos on my YouTube channel. So, this is a subject for another video here that I've already put on the channel for you. So let's go into protein and learning. All right, so I know this document might seem a little long to you, and there is 15 pages, but the last half of this document is in chart form, and I'll show you what every individual vitamin and mineral does in the body. And this is from the perspective of the growth and development of the brain and the nervous system. So there's missing information as to what each one of these nutrients do in the body, because that would make a book. And I do happen to have such a book, right? So it's a separate book if you want more and more information about what each nutrient does. But from a growth and nervous system and brain developing perspective, that's what I listed for each nutrient for this particular video. All righty. So protein, nutrition, and learning. As I said, it's vital for a children's learning abilities. They're building the brain tissue, the nerve tissue. That has to work properly in order for a person to learn and be able to retain information. Protein deficiencies adversely affect a student's intelligence, cognition, and behavior. Undernourished children given a nutrient-balanced protein caloric beverage demonstrated significant improvements in growth and performance on behavioral and achievement tests. All righty, let's see. Later in life, they continued to perform better in all aspects of their lives and showed improved IQ scores compared to unsupplemented children. Iron deficiencies due to a low iron diet affects children's learning and behavior. It affects the brain enzymes involved in cognition and behavior. Moderate to severe iron deficiency can lead to permanent neurological damage, leads to poorer test performance, IQ scores, behavior problems. Adolescent girls at a higher risk of developing iron deficiency due to their higher iron demands because during puberty and because of their menses, right? Menses. Iron supplementation for deficient young women, even those who were not anemic, improved cognitive functions, verbal learning, and memory, while iron deficient girls in puberty negatively impacted their math performances. Iron deficient children had lower standardized math scores and were more than twice as likely to score below average on other math assessments. Researchers found that iodine impacts a child's learning and behavior also. Severely deficient levels of iodine in the blood were, on average, slow learners than those with mild iodine deficiencies. Now, those of you who are jumping in to the middle of this video, I do not advocate buying individual iron or iodine or any other nutrient supplements out there. They have to be in synergistic form where they will be utilized in the body properly. Otherwise, you could have toxicity forming if you're buying elemental minerals, not food-derived minerals. If you're buying a whole food-derived supplement, then you're going to have a full range of synergistic nutrients that work together. Okay, so severe iodine deficiency is correlated with lower motivation to achieve and also with decreased cognitive ability. Iodine supplements given to 6 to 8-year-old iodine deficient school children in West Africa improved in mental tests and abstract reasoning, verbal fluency, and task performance and speed of task performance significantly. All right, I just saw a typo there. New studies reveal more than ever the importance of breakfast and learning capacity. The evaluation of hunger in low-income, school-aged children in 9 states in the U.S. found that those who were hungry were more likely to display psychosocial dysfunctional behavior, displayed a greater amount of behavioral emotional problems, elevated levels of aggression and anxiety, had more academic problems. Okay, so now more research is confirming what other researchers have found, right? And we're talking about the iodine and the iron and the protein. Those children who were only at risk for hunger or those who were not hungry were less likely to show psychosocially dysfunctional behavior. So well-nourished children are going to be much better, much more functional. The Boston public school system in the U.S. evaluated student participation in the Universal Free Breakfast program to determine if it would improve academic and social functioning. 33% of teenage students were defined as being at nutritional risk. That's a very high percentage of youth, if that's an indication of other schools, of being students being hungry. Students had poorer attendance and punctuality. They were probably tired, right? They didn't have any energy. They didn't have any desire to learn. They had lower grade point averages. They couldn't retain information. Program participants showed significant improvements in attendance and decreased hunger. Improved performance, particularly in math, behavior, and social adjustments improved. I mean, at this point, have you out there or members here with me, one can conclude that I think that's wrong with so much of the population. People are tired, people are depressed, people don't have the energy or the motivation to make their lives better. They have, problems with their relationships. So can you imagine if everyone was highly nourished and everyone was more alert and more awake and just felt better, felt happier? A full range nutrient daily diet not only improves learning and behavior, it also protects against chronic degenerative diseases such as obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. So those 3 are part of the syndrome called metabolic syndrome. So children consume daily foodstuffs devoid of essential nutrients instead of nutrient-rich fresh fruits and vegetables and other beneficial whole foods. Consumption of highly heated, altered plant oils found in many sweets and salty snacks, as well as refined sugars and flours, all of which can be in any single processed packaged foodstuff, leads to the above diseases and dysfunctions. I don't call any of those processed foods foods. They're not foods. They're just semblances of the original form of food. So I just call them foodstuffs. They don't offer any kind of nutritional or even energy value at all. Such grossly altered heat and chemical processed items greatly affect growth, development, behavior, learning, and intelligence. Those fats are going to destroy their brain and nerve cells, but not help them grow properly. Families must be made aware of how poor diets greatly impact their health and quality of life. Let's get this information out there to families. Uh, Families need to be educated. Parents always want to do what's best for their children, but they don't have the information that's needed, especially in this video, about how important these nutrients really are for their children. Teachers and parents need to become aware of just how severely children are impacted by their diet. Teachers are also important part of this because when my kids were growing up and they said that teachers handed out candy, I would ask the teachers not to give out these candies, and I would explain why. And I would say, I do not give my children candy. I'm not going to tell my kids not to take it because that would create social problems, right? But I tried my best to steer people away from it, especially in the classroom. That did not produce students that liked to learn or could sit still or have enough attention spans. So the population must be made aware of the enormous benefits optimal nourishment can have on humanity. All right, so here we are. We have the charts that I love. I love charts. Any of you who have worked with me before know that I love charts. So here's a great chart for anyone. It's like a reference chart. If you're not a member of the True Health Mastery Institute, then you have this video. But my members have the enjoyment of being able to download these PDF documents that I prepare for them and for everyone out there. And so they can go into and verify things for themselves and do further research for themselves. Or after the video is turned off, then we have discussions where I help, get more information and answer questions, things like that. So being a member has definitely many, many perks. I'll show you how to join the Institute at the end of this video. So here we are with the B complex vitamins, and you'll see that they're divided up into the vitamin itself and the biological attributes, what these nutrients do in the body. And remember, they work in synergy. They don't work in isolation. That's not how the body works. It needs the whole complexes of all of these together, which are found in whole foods. Okay, so as you can see, I'm not going to read the whole chart to you, but for instance, vitamin B1, it's involved in energy production, nerve and cell membrane conductivity. So we are electrical beings and we need those electrical impulses sending messages to every single one of our trillions of cells. So you can imagine how a child who is well nourished in the vitamins and minerals, how their brains are going to be receiving the right information. All right, so they're found in the meats, the legumes like the beans, and whole grains. The deficiency symptoms, you would have impaired muscle coordination, memory loss, or confusion. All right, and that's just one of these wonderful B complex vitamins. So as you can see, you can pause the video, and members, you can, of course, go look at this later in your member area and look at this PDF itself. But yeah, these B complexes, they do all kinds of things. Now, from here on out till the end of the video, I will just read the attributes so that you know what they do in the body. So the B vitamin riboflavin, which is vitamin B2, it helps the enzymes in the cells with the energy production cycle called ATP. The B3, it assists enzymes in the citric acid ATP energy production cycle also, and it's involved in the synthesis of DNA precursors. So it helps build our DNA molecule, which has all the genetic instructions on how to make the body run. It's the manual, for how to make the body run in our DNA in that double helix. All right, B5 helps synthesize coenzyme A in the same energy production cycle in the cells. So again, like I mentioned earlier, these B vitamins do a lot more in the body, but as it pertains to this particular video, that's just all that I'm showing here. So B6, as a coenzyme, it assists enzymes in this breakdown of these amino acids that our body needs to break the animal-derived proteins into these fundamental building blocks where it can put together other amino acids to rebuild and build new tissues. All right, so the B12, it's also a coenzyme. All these vitamins are called coenzymes because they work with the enzymes in the body, and it's required for building new proteins in the body. Biotin, it works as a coenzyme also in the cell's energy production cycle. So you see, without these B complexes, your child is going to be tired. there's just no way that they're going to have the sustainable energy, let alone be able to have the energy for their cells to continue the growth and development process. Okay, so this is another one that works in the energy production cycle. And then folic acid is essential in proliferating cell division. So, of course, all human bodies, we're always producing new cells. Our old cells are being destroyed and new cells take their place. So this energy, division is always happening all the time, transcribing the DNA information from the old cell to the new cell developing. This process is going on even more so in growing and developing children and teens. So that's extremely important for their diet as well. So yeah, if they want to keep growing and developing and having a healthy brain and nervous system and all the other systems, then you definitely need this in the mix. So vitamin C is another vitamin. And so it's essential for all of the different connective tissues, the cartilage, for building new cartilage and growth and development. It's important for the nervous system, all of these cofactors that are the minerals, they work with the coenzymes, which are the vitamins that produce neurotransmitters. So these are some of the neurotransmitters that are known, norepinephrine and serotonin. So those are important for nerve tissue and brain functioning. So, it helps regulate actions with iron and copper. So again, do not take isolated nutrients. They will not work. Just take them in whole food form. Okay, now vitamin A. Now these are vitamins that are dissolved in the fatty tissues and utilized in the fats. So they're found in different types of foods that help that contain these vitamins in them. So vitamin A, bone growth, eyesight, gums and teeth, fingernails, toenails, hair, all of these tissues that are growing in the body. You need to have those this type of vitamin in there. So a lot of the vegetables, the herbs, all the plant kingdom, your body can convert their phytochemicals into vitamin A as needed. So, vitamin A is something that can accumulate in the liver and become toxic. So you do not want a separate vitamin A supplement. Eat the foods that are high in these wonderful compounds, like the carotenoids. There's so many different compounds in there that will do that. And of course, the liver, the fish, and the eggs also are a good form of vitamin A. And there's not very much chances that you will overdose, because you'll get full before you do overdose, right? So whole food form is the key. Vitamin D, you go out in the sunshine, your body makes vitamin D, the precursor to all the hormones the body makes, right? So, it's very important for all the biological process for the functioning of our bones and kidneys, intestines, our liver, the immune cells, and all the glands in the body, the muscles, the lungs, the cardiac muscle, the cartilage, the brain. So vitamin D is extremely fundamental for anyone. Vitamin E, it's like an antioxidant. It doesn't allow toxins to stay in the body. So, we are always exposed to toxins in this world. So you want to eat foods that are high in vitamin E. And then we have vitamin K. We need to make sure that if you injure yourself, then there's going to be temporary clotting so that it covers the injury. And then, of course, the scab forms. And then as new cells are developed underneath the scab, then your body will automatically slough off the scab eventually. So this outward kind of thing on the surface is necessary for healing your injuries. Alrighty, and also it works on the inside too. You want to keep your blood vessels flexible, prevent them from developing hardened plaques and get them damaged. That can be extremely dangerous. If those plaques start breaking loose inside the bloodstreams, then you're going to have stroke and heart attacks, things like that. And they do happen in younger children nowadays because of the horrendous diet that they're on. Okay, so then we have the minerals. They are electrical. They're going to do so many things in the body, and they're always going to work with your nervous system and your brain. So that network of information always being pulsed out to all areas of the body is so extremely important for maintaining good health and growth and development. So calcium, you need calcium for contraction of the muscles. That means the heart muscles, the little muscles that are in the blood vessels, the esophagus, when you're swallowing foods, that action that pushes the food down to the stomach. Those are all muscular actions, and calcium is one of the very important minerals to maintain that. also. Sodium also, it's critical for muscle contractions, but you have to balance the sodium with the other minerals. If you have too much sodium and not enough of the other minerals, then you're going to have things like edema, headaches, dehydration, broken cells that cause pain and inflammation. I mean, there's just this whole chain reaction of things that happen when a person is missing sodium. So, I mean, it's critical for muscle contractions, nerve impulse conduction, nerve transmission, all these communication pathways. Um, so chloride, it's also important. When you have sodium chloride, that means you have table salt, right? So chloride itself is one of the electrolytes that are very, very important, or electrically charged minerals, I should say, that are very important in the body. Magnesium, very important. They work together. Notice how some of it is redundant. If you're reading this along with me, you'll see how redundant these minerals seem to be, but they each have their own part. They each uh, turn things on and off in the body when a task is needed. They respond, quickly when something is needed very urgently, things like that. So minerals are extremely important. Phosphorus, you'll find phosphorus. Not every, it's very rare that someone is deficient in phosphorus because it's present in so many foods. Okay, so one probably doesn't have to worry about that if they're eating a healthy diet. Potassium, it works with sodium and calcium, all the other minerals, in order to balance your water tables inside and outside of your cells. So you don't want to get too swollen up if there's too much water outside of your cells. The water needs to go inside the cell, do its cleansing and nourishing, bringing nutrients into our tiny little microscopic cells, and allowing the body to eliminate that water once it's used and spent and it's circulated out and urinated out, right? So water is important. And we need to make sure we're regulating that water, especially through the kidneys. That's what determines your blood pressure. So we have to make sure we have protein, carbohydrates, and fats. All of those things together are what regulates your water in your body. All right, so we have chromium, that's extremely important for how your blood sugar is working and how your pancreas is working. So you don't want to have so much sugar in your system that your pancreas is always trying to get that sugar out and store it as body fat. That's the safest way to get that blood sugar out. Or, develop diabetes, something that the pancreas starts malfunctioning, then it can't secrete the insulin, or so much insulin gets shot into the bloodstream, and then a person goes in, they start feeling the effects of insulin shock. If your body cannot take that insulin, extra sugar out of the bloodstream, then there's going to be severe, serious problems. So chromium is very important for regulating that kind of thing in the body. And copper, you've got so many things copper does. Our blood contains copper. It's mostly iron, but we do have a significant amount of copper in our body, and it's great for healing. It's just all these different things. It's a great works with the neutralizing of these toxins, or the toxins that the body produces under stress or when it's damaged. So copper has a role in that. Iodine, it's important for our thyroid and the hormones that it produces. So that will regulate your metabolism and how you use calcium, especially calcium. All right, and iron, the blood has different components, and iron is what helps the oxygenation be delivered to every one of our cells. So we need the oxygenated component in our blood, and that is fueled by iron. Okay, manganese. Alrighty, so we've got all this damage that can happen in the body. It's a great antioxidant as well. Molybdenum, it's again, has to do with transferring oxygen throughout the body, delivering oxygen. It works with sulfur. It's great for attaching itself to different enzymes the body does. So, I mean, if you look at this and read the whole chart, I hope you do, then you'll know a lot more about what these nutrients do and recognize maybe some of these deficiencies. Not that we're medical doctors, anyone out there, except for one. We have one doctor here tonight. And so, we need to have this knowledge. And if your hair isn't growing, or your child's bones don't seem to be growing, if there's growth seems to be stunted, There's so many things that can go wrong in a growing body. So you want to be sure that they have all these minerals in it. And the only way to really ensure that your child is fully nourished like this is to indeed put them on a good supplement. And I will show you a very good supplement just as a reference point of measurement. There are pretty good supplements out there, but I've made it my point over the years to make sure everyone has the best, absolute best supplement, absorbable supplement, the best ingredients, and even the best price, considering for, how expensive some of these things are. So I do have an organic multi-nutrient supplement that has been working for my clients for decades now, and it's the best one I've ever seen. I used to always switch as the industry grew and improved in how they produced their supplements. I would always switch to the better and better one, but this one I haven't found anything better in a very long time. So I'll show you which one that is if you'd like to know what that is. Even if you don't buy it from me, just use that as a standard, because believe me, that is the best standard I can find. Selenium, it's involved in DNA repair, enzyme activations in the blood, works in the brain, it helps in the fat cells. If I read all of this, I'd be here for another 2 hours. So that's why I'm not reading every single thing. But just to give you an idea of just how important each one of these nutrients are, and even more importantly, how they work well together. All right, zinc too. That is the star when it comes to helping your immune system function better. Okay, great for night vision, aids protein digestion, important for proper tissue growth, cell replication, immune system functioning, bone formation. I mean, again, I geared what I presented tonight here for the growing and developing child and teen. All right, so I always list my scientific references. I do a lot of research before putting together, these kinds of documents every week for my members and those of you out there in YouTube land. My members can actually, click on each one of these and look to see what the scientists have actually found. There's so much more information in these than what I'm able to fit into a 1-hour presentation every week. So I do encourage people to join the Institute, and have access to such life-saving information for you and your family. Okay, so these are the books that I've written. I won't go too much into that on my my website, holisticchoices.com. There's a link there that says books by Mary Esther Gilbert. You can just click on that and take a look at each one of these books. I produced videos describing the books, and I produced a short, narrative there describing what's inside each book. So you can do your research on the kinds of books that I'm putting out. Now, every one of my books are not redundant. They are designed so that you can add them to your holistic health management protocol and be truly highly informed, because they're all backed by extensive scientific research and years of matching the science with actual client results. All right, so yes, at this point, subscribe to my channel and you'll get notified, and tap that notification bell and you'll get notified. If you tap the like button, then this video will be put in front of more people who are looking for this information and need it so badly. All right, so to become a member of my institute, you can just click on, actually, you can just go to my website, holisticchoices.com, and click on the True Health Mastery Institute there. And so I have this whole description of the perks and the advantages of being a member. And I produce these videos every Friday, and we meet every Friday night. And if you'd like to join, then you just click the join here button and it takes you right to the membership. I do have a course that matches one of my books, Nutritional Synergy, if you want to be totally and completely knowledgeable about what foods to eat and how to put together meals, all kinds of great things on nourishing your body. And also, if you just want to join as a member, just click on this one and it goes right over to the payment side, where you can just process the payment. And you'll get a link to access your back office as a member. You'll have access to the member area, and there's articles and videos, a lot of information back there for you as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop my share. So I want to thank everyone for joining me here tonight, and I hope you got a lot out of this taste of what it's like to be a member, to have this knowledge at your fingertips every single week. I am available for my members at all times. And so if you have specific health questions, if you want information, then, offline, I do a lot of work for my Institute members. So anyhow, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. And members, please stand by. I'm going to stop the recording. So good night, everyone. And please share this information to those people who desperately need this. Okay, let's save some lives out there. Let's improve everyone's lives out there. And I hope this improves your life as well. Until next time, this is Mary Esther Gilbert signing off. Thank you.